hello. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Fantastic.
Doing well? Doing well. Had a nice storm here a couple of hours ago and it made a lot of noise.
Everything's making noise today in the news.
Yeah. Well, we'll make some noise here too and see what happens.
Yes.
All right.
So have you been keeping up with current events?
Keeping up with everything that they're saying is current.
Yeah, let me pull up something here and let's take a look at it and we can see what we think about it. Here you go. It's about student suicides. This story is from Converse, Texas. The mother of Kirby Middle School student who took his own life says schools need to do more with mental health. Shauna Harris has her son Jordan Cole's last heartbeat etched into her forearm. We put a little bit of his ashes in the ink, she said. Harris said the 14-year-old always wanted to put a smile on somebody's face. She could be having the world's worst day. And he was the one to do something silly or goofy just to make you laugh, he said. And she said there was no red flags. He didn't talk to me. So that's pretty sad. Have y'all ever lost anybody close due to suicide?
I lost a dear friend who committed suicide while on my answering machine. And we saved a young 14-year-old girl whose mother caught her putting the finishing touches on a YouTube video saying goodbye to everybody.
Wow.
So sad story and a great story.
Yeah.
But I've worked with literally dozens upon dozens of families who've dealt with suicide, people who failed to achieve. Big subject that we started: do you commit suicide or do you achieve suicide? And for many people, it's an achievement to help stop making all their loved ones suffer.
Yeah.
And then for others, they just want to end it all. So I've got a lot of experience with suicide notes, attempted suicides, and people who've turned around and changed their lives for the better because they got the proper help.
Yeah. And that's the key, getting the proper help.
Right.
And
Well,
that-
in the young ones,
Right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Steve.
I was going to say that can look different for everybody. Sometimes getting on antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication can help. Sometimes therapy or both, and sometimes this changes a lot of things in your life. So it can be complicated.
What I find most common in the younger kids, 10, 12, 14, 15, is in the schools especially, and I'm not knocking schools, but a lot of times their hands are tied or they're just not recognizing the signals.
Yeah.
Some people cry so loud and so often that they just become the boy or the girl who cries wolf, and people stop paying attention to them because it's just the same old, same old.
Yeah, that's a big deal right there. A lot of people whine and complain about everything, and they throw up all kinds of false flags, like, well, I think I should just kill myself, and they don't mean it. Like you say, they keep saying that, and then maybe one day they do mean it, and nobody notices.
Yeah. And then on the school board side, everybody's afraid of getting sued if they're wrong. I want to help the kid, but if I say something and I'm wrong, then I'm going to be sued, or I'm going to be the one who suggested it. So there's a lot of on all sides. There's a lot of fear of getting involved in helping people.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm a veteran, and I'm very fortunate that I actually have psychiatrists, and I see counseling for myself. As a former scout leader, I have been a mentor to others, and I still do. And as the founder of tutorsforyou.org, we have several classes, and we do offer a mental health class, which is $5. We also have a social emotional learning class, which is $5, because I think that mental health, not just mental health, but children need help. And there are those children who do say that, quote unquote, cry wolf. But then again, there are children who are being bullied and they have no other outlet. Uh, there's hurting, self hurt, and there's other methods that children are doing to themselves, and they have no other outlet too. And so, what we have through tutorsforyou.org is a safe place for children to actually seek help by or with proven skilled professionals for simply $5 an hour.
That's wonderful. That's what kids need. They need a safe place where they're not going to be reprimanded for talking or made fun of for talking.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's very important. I lost a good friend a few years ago to suicide. Actually, she was kind of like a daughter to me. And she had dealt with anxiety and depression ever since she was a small child. She had attempted suicide several times. And then the breaking point for her was when her dad murdered her mother. And she never could get past that, and I'm sure that was a toughie. I think she was about 30, something like that, when she committed suicide. But, that really hurt. That really hurt. And, the conversations I've had with her over the years, I know that she had dealt with a lot. She really did. She was a beautiful person, inside and out, but she was definitely troubled. She struggled with addiction, she struggled with depression and anxiety, and it was hard to watch her suffer, but it was very hard when she committed suicide, and it hurt a lot of people. I mean, she was loved by a lot of people.
But she might not have perceived that so many people loved her, and that she was going to hurt so many people when she did it. That's tough to understand what the person is perceiving in their mind as opposed to what's really going on around them.
Yeah.
Once you get in a depressed state, you can make up all kinds of theories in your mind to make you more depressed and more desperate. The young lady who committed suicide on my answering machine was somebody that I met in Florida, got very close to, and when I left Florida, she got into drugs and all kinds of problems, and I would always take her calls. So for several years, she looked at me as the only person left that would listen to her or somewhat understood. And the one day she called, I was out of town, and you could hear her convincing herself that I was just one more person that had gotten tired. I was probably standing right next to the answering machine. I was probably just, finally had enough and wasn't going to be her last string of hope. And slowly she went from, hey, how you doing? I need to talk, to, oh, so now I've lost my last lifeline. And you could hear her convincing herself that I was there and ignoring her. And then the gunshot, then either the gun hit the floor or she hit the floor, and it was all on my answer machine. And the truth was, I was out of town. I got several phone calls before I got home to even listen to the message or even know that there was a message on my machine. So, I listened to that whole transformation from, hey, how are you? I need to pick me up, to, oh, so you're letting me down too.
Yeah.
So clearly she was
Yeah,
going
people go
through
through a
a
whole
manic
lot of-
situation.
For several years. And the parents didn't understand and probably didn't help in the right way. It's hard to love somebody who's having these issues if you're not educated on how to love them properly. Sometimes the wrong kind of love can drive you further into addiction or depression or whatever, if you're not trained or at least schooled on how to talk to people in these situations.
Well, I think too, like with the school systems, bullying, bullying from years ago to bullying now is at a whole different level. They're doing a lot more extreme cyberbullying, the list goes on, so what typically our parents back in the day would have been like, hey, this is, you can handle this is tough it up. It's so extreme now that it's almost impossible. You got social media, YouTube, boyfriends taking pictures of their girlfriends and then they're plastering it all over the school, like different things. It's at an extreme. And so I think that just being a parent and understanding that piece when it comes to your child and being able to get them the help that they need at that time, because one of my first cases, I'll never forget it. When I was doing crime scene investigation, was a young girl, and she had been telling her mom, my boyfriend broke up with me. We're not together anymore. This is so hard. And it was so hard for her to process because as a kid, just her personality, when she loved hard. And so the parents didn't understand how that transitioned into the guy she was dating, but it did. That's her personality. That's who she was. And so when he broke up with her, she felt like, I don't have anybody else. This is who I went to for everything. So when she took her life, her mom was like, if I would have just listened, when she was trying to tell me, instead of brushing it off like, oh, it's just a boyfriend, you can get another one. At that point, it was like, all those thoughts running through her head, if she just would have listened. So that stuck with me so many years ago. And so now with my kids, I'm like, if I just listen, maybe I can make a difference or find them the way to help them versus just tuning them out. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very important to talk to people about things that are really troubling you, no matter what age you are. It's so easy. And I know from experience, when I was a kid, I didn't feel like I could trust any adults. I was scared of everything. Anxiety and depression were just eating me up. I didn't know what it was. I just didn't think that I fit in anywhere, and I just didn't feel like I could trust any adults to talk to them about it.
Yeah.
The young lady that we helped, the mother caught her making her goodbye tape, and we went out and we talked to her for several hours. And in her particular situation, she was molested by the uncle and the cousin and had a long, hard life. But at school, the juvenile officer said, when the boys were mistreating her, he'd say, well, you're a pretty girl and you're well developed. You're going to have to get used to that. Suck it up. It'll go away when you get into your next grade. And the counselors kind of put her off as, oh, you're just, over dramatizing. And, and then the school administrator told the mother, well, you don't really make enough income. You're not eligible for our programs. So when we got a hold of that tape and we talked her down, and I went to the school the next day with the tape and I showed the officer the tape, and he was convinced that she had killed herself. And I said, do you think I can talk to the counselor? And he took me right up there. And I showed her the tape. And she was convinced that the young lady had already killed herself. And then I took it up to the school administrator, and we got a phone call to the governor's office. And they promised everything in the world for the mother. And I said, why are you so concerned about the mother? The girl's not dead. Here's her. I just showed you her video. I didn't say she killed herself. I said, but now that we know how you react after the fact, thank you. And then I went with the young lady the next couple of meetings. And I said, now remember, they're only paying attention to you because they thought they got caught after you killed yourself. So everything that they're saying to you right now is to save their own reputations and their own rear ends. And I convinced her, I said, you made a beautiful video. Why don't we go around interviewing the other kids who had the same problems and make videos telling their stories? So she actually went on a speaking tour with me to colleges and schools, talking to other kids what drove her to want to end her life and what her parents weren't doing and what other people around her weren't doing to fully understand what her real issues were. And I'll make this short because there's other people here, but she was about 14 then. And about 5 years later, I had an office with a mezzanine, and I heard the door open, and a young lady said, Mike Bonaventure, you get down here and you give me a hug and a kiss right now. And I looked over the banister and I said, do I know you? And she was in Army fatigues. And she says, yes, you saved my life. I joined the Army. I've gotten through boot camp and AIT, and now I'm getting assigned to my first duty. And she said, I just wanted to give you a hug and a kiss and thank you.
That made your day, didn't it?
Yeah, sure. I didn't even recognize her. I had no clue who she was. But sometimes you get those good stories.
Yeah, yeah. I remember a time when I was one of the counselors for the Billy Graham Association. I was taking phone calls, that they have people call in during their crusades. And a lady called in and she was talking about killing herself. And, she's talking about how she couldn't forgive herself and she was a horrible person. She couldn't live with it anymore. She said she got an abortion a couple of years prior to that, and she felt guilty about it and all this. And, I talked to her for a while and prayed with her. And at the end of the conversation, she said something that really shook me. She said, Steve, my intention was to get somebody on the phone. And while they were talking to me, I was going to kill myself.
Oh, wow.
And that, and she said, but you changed my mind. And that, that definitely had a powerful effect on me, to this day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a great feeling if you can do that. But, it's really stressful when you're going through it, because there's a life riding on it.
Well, yeah, the wrong word or the wrong moment, and they could end their life.
Yeah.
So, Lamar, how did you get into this? Was this like something that you had experienced in the service, or is it something after the service that?
As far as tutorsfree.org?
Yes.
Actually, for me, I have a particular prayer that I say every day, and that is, Dear Father, please bless me to be the person you want me to be, to do the things you want me to do, to act, say, and live according to your will. And my background is I have 30 years experience as a massage therapist. I'm a former teacher. I used to volunteer at the local food bank, and I also am a former nonprofit administrator at doing childcare services. And the program that we're focusing on now is education, which is tutorsforyou.org. And so what we're doing is our concept is that education itself is very expensive. And for those families that learn that they need a tutor, it becomes even more expensive. And so a family can spend an additional $30 to $300 more just for a tutor. So what we do is, or what I've done as a nonprofit, is to lower the cost for a class to $5. And our tutors, instead of you getting a high school student or a college student, with us, you're going to get an experienced teacher. And with our teachers, on average, have 11 years of experience. Some of our teachers have over 30 years experience in the classroom. We currently have 14 doctors. We have teachers from all over the world. We have classes from preschool, Montessori preschool, to business, to TikTok dancing, to accounting. We have 30 different languages. We have 100 classes. I'll put it that way. I'm not going to try and name everything, but we have 100 classes, and we are around the world. So you're looking at spending $5 for 1 hour and getting an experienced teacher to help you in the classes that you need, whether you're a child or an adult.
That's wonderful. You really should
So it's just that simple.
put your contact information in the comments section for people who might want to get a hold of you, who are going to watch this tomorrow or the next day, and maybe put a link or something for information.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to do that if you want to, Lamar. Where it says chat, bottom right of the screen. If you want to type any of your website information or whatever in there, then that's great. What else is on the news today? Let's see here. Here we go. Secret Service agents were in contact with far-right oath keepers. Now that's interesting. A new report reveals members of the Secret Service were in communication with the group's radical leader, Stuart Rhodes. Y'all heard about this?
I've heard talk, but I've never seen it
Yeah.
documented or in writing and anything.
It says Secret Service agents were in contact with Oath Keepers leader Stuart Rhodes before he helped lead an insurrection on the Capitol on January the 6th, 2021, according to a new report. Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, or CREW, published emails on Wednesday revealing that a member of the Secret Service told other agents in September 2020 he had received a call from Rhodes informing him that the far-right white nationalist group planned to provide security details around Donald Trump's visit to Fayetteville. The email detailed that the Oath Keepers security detail would be composed of primarily retired law enforcement, former military members who are very pro-Leo law enforcement officer and pro-Trump. Their stated purpose is to provide protection and medical attention to Trump supporters if they come under attack by leftist groups. Does this concern any of you all that there's that much collusion going on between the Oath Keepers and the Secret Service? I mean, is it just me, or does that sound very scary?
It's definitely concerning.
Yeah.
For sure.
So what do you think? think is the big danger there, Angel?
What was the question again? I was reading the next one underneath it. What was the question?
What do you think is the biggest danger with that kind of collaboration?
I mean, at this point, everything is open and on the table. If that's the case, if it just worries. I mean, I'm very well aware that, there are these nationalist groups in all different kinds of, they're in the military, they're in police departments, they're in, they're everywhere. But just the fact that they may have some sort of connection to Secret Service is even more concerning than I think anything else. I mean, I'm sure they're in FBI too.
Yeah.
This is
And they're finding out now that on January 6, 2021, it was a big deal, not with just the Oath Keepers, but there were Secret Service involved, there were politicians involved, military involved. I mean, it was a highly organized coup attempt. I mean, it was big. It was really big.
Well, I think that's where we have to depend on the system to work with the checks and balances, because there's always going to be infiltrators on one side or the other. And even when the good guys are finally coming to the conclusion that something's going to happen, how much red tape is there to get to stop it, intervene, or actually, so we know something's going to happen, but do we know exactly what day and what time? And when we get enough information, how many channels do we have to go through to prevent it?
Yeah.
So it's not everything is an open and shut conspiracy. Sometimes the system doesn't work in a timely manner. But I think every organization has good and bad in it. I think you're going to find bad guys in every, we're just people who wear different uniforms.
Right. And when you look at the purpose of these organizations, when they build and they become these, the white nationalist groups or whatever kind of racist group, they strategically plan this to have people in high positions and in governmental roles and, all of that in order to fulfill their purpose. I mean, they wouldn't function if they didn't. So,
Yeah.
It all looks good on paper. As you know, as an investigator,
yeah,
something new always comes out of the woodwork.
That's right. That's right. That's
But
right.
it always goes back to the money.
Yes.
It goes to the money.
That's an old time thing.
All of the money, yeah.
Hey, Lamar, it looks like you're on a little bit of a delay. So if we just keep talking, feel free to butt right in there with your opinions. I think we're talking over you because of a delay situation.
Yeah, if we are, we're sorry about that. He's right, you do have a delay. Okay. Well, hopefully you'll get that taken care of so we can hear what he's saying.
Oh, I wasn't saying anything.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains it.
No, I noticed even when he answered me, there was obviously a delay from.
I wasn't saying anything.
No, before.
Oh no, I'm still trying to log in.
Okay.
I'm having technical issues. Yeah, I'm having technical issues. I know.
Well,
We understand that, Mike.
that makes sense. I thought it was me.
Yeah, we understand those
Yeah, I know.
technical issues. So what else is in the news here? Let's see.
No, I'm listening. I just nothing to say at this point.
Okay, here we go. Have you heard about the shooting in Boston at the marathon?
Oh wow.
Yeah, it says 2 suspects have been arrested after at least 8 people were injured in a shooting that took place during the annual Caribbean Carnival in Boston on Saturday morning. The shooting was not related to the Caribbean parade. Boston Police Commissioner Michael Cox said during a news briefing Saturday afternoon. This morning's shooting is not related to the parade that occurred since it happened on the outskirts of it, Cox said. Very early in the investigation, but it seems to potentially be maybe 2 groups having some type of altercation. Now these shootings, they just keep on happening, don't they?
Well, there was the one guy that shot the 3 African Americans this weekend.
Yeah, I heard about that.
I think
Yeah.
that happened.
I can't remember where that happened.
I forget where that was.
I think that was in Jackson.
Yeah, Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah, I was.
It-
I was
it-
right up the street.
Okay,
Wow.
it's a daily occurrence.
Yeah, it is. It really is, and it's really sad. Some people blame it on guns, and some people blame it on mental illness.
You know, it's either it's it's either somebody's being shot or someone's being denied education or women's rights are being taken away from her. This is a really wild time in our country.
I agree. It
I
definitely-
was just reading. I can't remember the city, but the police are recommending that seniors carry mace or pepper spray or something because I forget the city now, but seniors are being attacked.
Yeah,
Are being targeted.
that sounds like good advice.
Yeah, it is good advice, but it's a shame that they're just they found their weak links and they're targeting senior citizens, and the police have to recommend that these seniors defend themselves until they can get there.
Yeah,
And I mean, our country we just don't have the mental health services like we had
Right.
before. The mental health hospital, all of that is gone. So it's
Well,
just
people-
everybody's just out everywhere now, and so with little to no control. And even when we used to take people and we would Baker Act, in which if you're familiar with law enforcement, they would be placed in a mental ward if they were trying to commit suicide or whatever, or just having an episode. They would go in there for 24 hours, get it back on their meds. All of a sudden they're fine. They come out 24 hours later, wouldn't be on their meds, and then it's like the whole show all over again. I mean, it's just,
yeah.
it's just bad. It's bad.
My daughter worked many years in a facility that dealt with the mentally impaired pedophiles and criminals and rapists. And they shut those facilities down, and now all her old clients are walking downtown, sleeping on benches, unmedicated, and there's no place to put them.
Yeah. Or either they found their way into the prison system. I saw a lot. Being on the executive team at one of the women's prisons here, it was just crazy because it was just so many people with mental health. Yes, they've committed a crime, but they had severe mental health and they just weren't getting the medications and the stuff that they need inside the prison. It was pretty bad. So
Yeah, it is bad. Uh, it says Mayor Michelle Wu spoke about the importance of cultural events like Carnival and urged people not to blame the violence on the Caribbean community. It's always just heart-wrenching to hear that a treasured community event has been disrupted by acts of violence from those who had nothing to do with the event. Wu said at the news briefing, and there's absolutely no excuse for something that is open to the community and part of Boston's culture and heritage to be talked about in this way because of the acts that were introduced. Police are encouraging anyone with information on the incident to come forward. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, that's something unfortunately we do. Whoever the perpetrator is, we blame the whole race or the whole culture
Yeah.
instead of the person.
Instead of the person, right?
And sometimes, it does make sense. Like that's why the RICO Act was invented, because some organizations are just hate groups or very violent.
Mm-hmm.
So in some cases, it makes sense.
Well, the RICO Act was basically formed to get the head of the snake who wasn't actually out there committing the crimes. The crimes were being committed on behalf of the person who you could never arrest because that person never personally put his hands on anything.
Yeah.
So that the RICO Act was designed to take down originally the top mobsters who were controlling all the crime but never participating in it.
Yeah. But can't they all once something has been labeled a hate group or something like that, isn't it illegal just to belong to that organization?
I don't know. We're going to check into that. I don't know if it's illegal to belong to the organization, but it's definitely illegal to act on behalf
Yeah.
of what that organization believes in. You have the right to hate anybody, but you don't have the right to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
Whether your hate comes from ignorance or personal experience, you do have the right to your opinion, but you don't have the right to infringe on anybody else's freedoms or liberties or physical being.
Now, I've never understood this hate crime thing, I mean, if somebody kills somebody else, they're dead, regardless if they hated them or if they done it because they didn't like their looks. I mean, what difference does it make? Why is something more atrocious just because there's hate involved? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Yeah. It's still wrong regardless. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody walked up to me and hit me upside the head with a 2x4, I wouldn't care if they hated me or just hated everybody that looked like me. It doesn't matter.
You still hate the fact that you got hit by a 2x4.
Yeah. Everybody was thinking this. Well,
I think the difference is the motivation.
Mm-hmm.
I think the difference is the motivation that started the. It's the motivation. What started the hate? What started the action to be hit in the first place?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Yeah,
For
because I'm
instance,
pretty sure none of us.
The captain. Go ahead, Mike.
No. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I
was saying take the captain a couple weeks ago, who was just doing his job and gets gang jumped. They're saying that was a hate motivated. The guy was just doing his job.
Yeah.
So that's motivated by hate.
But the hate has to have an origin, because none of us were born hating others, prejudiced of others, or thinking we were smarter than others. We didn't come out of the womb with all of these preconceived notions that drive us to hate or judgment.
Yeah.
This is true.
A lot of it is learned behavior, and I wasn't raised that way. I was just raised to believe the color of your skin came from the place in the world where your origins were. If your ancestors came from the desert, you had darker skin than if you were raised in the snowy mountains of the Swiss Alps. But we're all people, so I wasn't raised with any of those prejudices. I was one of the few people in school that had as many rich multimillionaire Jewish friends as I did ghetto project African American friends. My friends at my house were all nationalities, all colors, all different religions. If I spent a weekend at my Jewish friend's house, I went to temple. If I spent a weekend at my Southern Baptist friend's house, I went to church with him on Sunday. This is all foreign to me. This whole day and age is completely foreign to me.
Yeah, it does make a difference how you're raised. That's for sure.
Right.
There's a lot of people really and truly proud
Far
of.
too many people.
Go ahead, Lamar. What were you saying?
But I was just simply saying that for far too many people, it's too common for them. It may be foreign to us, but for a lot of people, it's too common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100% agree.
One thing that my mother used to say, and I don't know where she got it, bless her heart, but she used to say, everybody knows people who live in trailer parks are meaner than everybody else. Now, I don't know where she got that, but, I thought it was kind of strange. And when I moved into a trailer park not too long after that, she wasn't happy about it. People learn these things.
It's like just this past weekend in Montgomery, 5 families woke up and they had swastikas and all these racial slurs, all over their cars. I mean, that just raises a whole nother alarm. Like, if their cars had just been graffitied, that's one thing. But the racial part it raises the bar because of that alarm. Now you're like, who is around here that's hating on me? If they can do this, what will they do next? It's just a whole nother level of fear.
Yeah.
But I'm in upstate New York, and back in the 50s, I guess, our area was one of the largest Ku Klux Klan headquarters in the Northeast.
Oh, wow.
And I talk to some of these guys and I say, you do know we have DNA now. Why don't you go back through your family history to the plantations and see how much African American blood you actually have in your system? I don't know what makes you think you're better than any other race, but let's do some DNA and go back 3 or 4 generations back to the plantations, when the slaves are good enough to have sex with, but not good enough to eat at your table. You may be surprised who some of your relatives are.
And personally, I wouldn't care one way or the other.
Well, no, I don't either.
Black, striped, or whatever,
Yeah.
People are people.
And I keep telling people Jesus wasn't a white albino guy from the Bronx.
He didn't look like Mary anyway.
No, he had a little skin color to him over in the Middle East.
Yeah. Somebody said once, the Bible says that man was created in the image of God. There's some people that say, well, we create God in our image, in our minds. And I understood that. A lot of people will think that God looks just like them. And I used to be in a church where everybody thought that Jesus was a Republican. They didn't like me too.
Well, if your prayers came true, you probably thought he was.
Oh my goodness.
It's just all too silly on one hand and ignorant on the other.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
sure.
See, my favorite saying last year, and not so much this year because I don't run into it too much, but when I run into people who think they know everything and that their word is the law, I'll say something like, you know what? Tomorrow morning, meet me on the other side of the river, but don't use the bridge. If you show up dry, I'll listen to what you have to say.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't know about you, but if I don't use the bridge, I'm drowning. I don't walk on water.
Too many
Actually, I can't swim, but I'm not showing up dry.
No.
So, have you heard of this guy here? Have you heard the song Rich Men North of Richmond?
I've heard conversation about it, but I never heard the song.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a big deal these days. This guy, Oliver Anthony, wrote the song, and said it's continuing to make his voice heard after becoming an overnight sensation thanks to his viral working class anthem, Rich Men North of Richmond. And he wrote a song basically about corruption, and especially in politics, how people aren't meant to work their life away and never get anything good. He said it's hard to get a message out about your political ideology or your beliefs about the world in 3 minutes and some change, he said, but I do hate to see that song being weaponized. And one thing that he's really upset about is they played the song at the Republican convention, not the Republican convention, some campaign article or something, and they're trying to say that he is one of them, and he's not. And that's really ticking him off. So, Michael, you live north of Richmond. What do you say about that?
Huh.
I don't even think it's worth commenting on.
Oh.
I don't know. Everybody claims whatever they want to claim, and I want to hear from the songwriter, and that's the only version I'm going to believe.
Yeah. Okay. So no comments on that one, huh?
No.
Oh,
I
well.
think it speaks for itself.
Well, did you hear about the police officer that killed somebody with a cooler?
With a cooler.
Yeah. Let me pull that up here. The guy was riding a motorcycle. Let me pull that up here. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. Man on motorbike dies after New York Police Department officer throws a cooler at him. Sergeant Eric Duran was suspended after allegedly throwing the cooler at the man on the motorbike, who police said was fleeing officers. New York City police officer sergeant was suspended Thursday, a day after he allegedly threw a picnic cooler at a man on a motorbike, who subsequently crashed and died, authorities said. The police department said that the man on the motorbike was fleeing from officers in the box on Wednesday when the incident occurred. Sergeant Eric Duran was suspended without pay. Apparently he was trying to get away, and the officer picked up a cooler and threw him at a motorcycle, and it caused him to wreck, and it resulted in his death. It's a very unconventional way to stop a suspect.
I mean, I definitely see the suspension because definitely not in policies and procedures at all.
Yeah.
I never understood high-speed chases. Get the driver's license or get the license plate number, get the description, and go pick him up tomorrow while he's sleeping at home.
Yeah.
You don't have to chase him at 110 miles an hour and put other people's lives at risk, or kill him because he owes a $25 ticket.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing now is that a lot of times what's right, when it comes to these cases, a lot of people they don't live anywhere that's on their driver's license or, I mean.
I know, I know, but you still don't have to kill a person.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think in some cases it's warranted.
But is it worth it though?
No, because he's gonna end up losing his job and his career, and for what? To stop a motorcycle rider that was fleeing?
Yeah.
And we don't know why he was fleeing. Did he commit a murder?
No.
Was he, shooting back over his shoulder at the cop?
I mean, I guess you got to kind of look at it. Somebody just has a speeding ticket violation, or some serial killer he just resurfaced after 10 years and you're trying to catch him before he is gone again. So I guess it's a little bit of discretion.
Yeah, I would think it's a lot of discretion, especially when you have a gun. Why would you pick up a cooler?
Yeah.
But then again, sometimes you don't have to have a gun to run. You could actually have just have a warrant out for your arrest for child support, and a cop will shoot you in the back.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So he's running. It's still no reason to put people's lives at risk, either his or innocent bystanders who might get caught up in the high-speed chase.
Yeah.
If you're chasing him and he loses control, he might run over 5 kids on a sidewalk.
Yeah.
So at what point do you use your discretion and say, this isn't worth killing somebody, and this isn't worth, losing my job over?
Oh, yeah. Nothing's worth losing your job over for sure. But
I'm thinking he probably just meant to stop the guy throwing the cooler at him, and so he wouldn't have to shoot him. And the guy wrecked, and I don't think that was an intentional killing.
But that's the results of your actions, intentional or not.
Yeah.
That's how it ended up. And whether you intended it or not, you're responsible for the end result of the actions that you took.
Yeah.
If it's not in your policies and procedures, how can you explain it? Nobody's going to defend you on that.
Yeah, right.
A couple of years ago, we had a guy go to prison. He was a landscaper, and a garbage can lid fell off the back of his pickup truck on the highway and killed a motorcycle driver. And he went to prison for not tying down his garbage can lids. That wasn't intentional. He didn't know the wind was going to blow it, but
Yeah.
it was his neglect, and a death resulted as as part of his neglect, and he went to prison. I think he got 1 to 3 years.
Mm.
Wow.
And the sentences that are given to criminals nowadays, some of them don't make any sense, you know? And judges have so much discretion and they can do pretty much what they want to do, it seems.
Well, and from what I witnessed is in regular communities, the sheriff really has a big say
Yeah,
on how many people get arrested and who the DA should be concentrating on, because you got to keep so many cells open to rent out to the neighboring counties because they pay a fortune. And you have to keep so many cells full to pay the taxes and the bills and to make sure your overhead is taken care of. So, like you said in the beginning, follow the money, and then you'll find out where the decision making comes from.
Yeah.
And if the money's jeopardized, sometimes the decisions get kind of silly.
yeah.
Wow.
Well, what else is going on? Let's see here. How about the chaos at the new college in Florida? Now,
Didn't hear that.
chaos at new college of Florida. Lamar, you probably know all about this one.
So me a little.
With the start of the semester 2 weeks away, students are grappling with absent professors, canceled classes, and severe housing woes. Now, just to summarize it all for you, without reading all that, the college has a reputation for being very progressive, a very leftist college, and Santos, or whatever that governor's name is in Florida, I think it's Santos. He recently hired about, I think, 15 people, very conservative people, to the board. And that's causing a lot of people to leave the school, a lot of professors. So that's all political, it's sad.
Well, kudos to the professors who left rather than conformed.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm wondering though too, I hear so much about him because I'm so close to Pensacola and that's home. And the level of power I think that he just has. I mean, I guess, I just don't see a lot of other governors kind of exerting the same amount. Like the whole thing he's doing with Disney, I think it's a hot mess. And it's like almost like a power struggle. He's just doing a lot. And then the fact that he took out, the curriculum in the schools to teach about certain pieces of history, I'm not fond of either. He's just doing a lot.
There's no repercussions.
No, he's just doing a lot.
If you don't mind me talking on that for a second, I was asked about that in a different podcast about my opinion on taking out education. And my personal is that the reason people hide education is that there's something there that you don't want people to know about. And DeSantis is the governor of this state that I live in. Do I claim him? No. And I'm happy to say that we do have African American studies, and the teachers that teach that class are both PhDs that teach that class in our state, in Florida, for people all over the world. So whether you're in Florida or not in Florida and you want to know about Afro studies, it's $5 a class being taught. Whether you agree with African American history,
Your sound went out, Mark.
yeah, I just saw that. I saw that. So what I was saying is, whether you were in Woolworth spitting on the people sitting at the table, and you now don't want your grandchildren to know that that was you, God knows. And whether you want to be called a racist or not, but the facts will get out, and we have the internet, and the children of today and tomorrow are smart enough to find it. And Angel, what you were asking about other states, I can't think of her first name. I just had it too. Huckabee Sanders, in her intelligence underneath the shoe of an ant. In her state, she also, disbanded Afro studies. Listening to her, I probably shouldn't say it, but she's about as intelligent as a dead rock as well. But in her state, she's also promoting the child labor laws, making it easy for children to work. So
Wow.
you have to really study the heart of these people. And I'm not a doctor. I am a child of a minister, but I'm not going to preach. But my focus is education.
Yeah.
And what we do is make it possible for people to get an education at a lower cost and being taught by professionals. And I simply am going to make another ad, and that is tutorsforyou.org provides online tutoring for $5 an hour for children and adults. Plain and simple.
Well, and that's just the thing that everybody has to know about, that you are available and that it is only $5. And, today, I don't know how you keep anything a secret with the internet. If the government doesn't want you to talk about it, the governor doesn't want you to talk about it, they rule it out of the schools, there's still the internet, and there's still people like us who can educate anybody we want to educate. Nobody's going to stop us.
And I see a lot.
I just don't understand how you avoid the mistakes of the past if you don't know about them.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to do with my I have a forensic academy for kids where they can learn all things like crime scene and forensics and labs. And every summer I go in our local library and I talk with the kids, and they have such a negative notion of law enforcement. So when you start, you come in there and you teach those things, forensics and, different, how to take your fingerprints, and, they're very various different lesson plans. The kids are so engaged, and then it turns their mindset around, to what they see every day in their neighborhoods, or, their aspect of law enforcement. It just kind of shifts that change. So sometimes you got to be about the change, like what Lamar's doing. Sometimes you just got to be part of the change to help, change the view that people may have, or the perceptions, or the lack of understanding when it comes to the knowledge of different things, so.
Yeah, I agree. And I've done some things when I was a kid that I wasn't proud of. But when my grandsons asked about them, I said, yeah, your grandfather was an idiot. Yeah, your grandfather did some stupid stuff. But learn from my mistakes, learn from my ignorance, and don't 40 years from now have to tell your grandchildren how ignorant you were.
Right.
You know, but you're not going to do them any favors by lying to them and telling them it didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, fess up and explain why you were wrong and why you changed and why you're better and society is better for your changes. But don't deny that it happened.
Exactly.
That's right. That's right.
I agree with you on that.
I mean, we wouldn't be old and wise if we weren't young and stupid.
There you go. I definitely went through that phase.
Yeah.
The secret was to survive it.
Yeah.
But did you hear about the Loch Ness Monster?
Wait a minute.
Which version?
Scotland holds largest Loch Ness Monster hunt in 50 years.
What?
Yeah.
You said they're holding the bit largest hunt?
Yeah.
Oh, but they didn't find the largest monster.
No.
That remains to be seen. It says hundreds of hopeful volunteers joined a 2-day hunt for Scotland's fabled Loch Ness Monster Saturday and Sunday. And what organizers described as the biggest search for the elusive Nessie in more than 50 years. The Loch Ness Center was partnered with the voluntary research team Loch Ness Exploration to organize the quest. Said they would be using surveying equipment that had not previously been tried at the loch, including thermal drones. Well, they're getting serious.
But is it true that that all those locks are interwoven through tunnels and passageways to other waterways?
I would imagine that kind of what a lock is.
Did you read the 4th paragraph where it says we did hear something? We heard 4 distinctive glops. I can't.
Yeah.
It's probably a bell on a sunken ship.
And we did hear something. We heard 4 distinctive gloops, said church leader Alan McKenna. We all got a bit excited, ran to go make sure the recorder was on and it wasn't plugged in. The first written record of a monster relates to the Irish monk Saint Columba, who was said to have banished a water beast to the depths of the River Ness in the 6th century. So blame it all on an Irish monk. So do y'all think there's really something fishy, should I say? I don't know.
That's like the one-armed guy describing his catch. It was that
There
big.
you go. There you go.
Oh, wow.
You know, stories like that are fascinating, especially the kids. And of course, we got the abominable snowman and Bigfoot. We've all heard of Bigfoot, Sasquatch. Anyway, what else is on the agenda? I've run out of topics.
I don't know. I wish the news was more diversified. We're not hearing about shark attacks or,
Maybe next time.
maybe next time. I haven't heard of one in upstate New York in years, but When I was in Florida, I heard about them all the time.
And well, supposedly they're going to be telling us more information about the aliens from outer space. So more will be revealed.
Yes. Yeah, that was mentioned at the RNC, right?
What was that, Lamar?
P.
I think we need to put you on that case, Angel. Find out aliens.
No.
At the debate, they were that was brought up.
Was it?
Yeah,
Well,
I believe that was brought up. Yeah.
so maybe we'll get a president that gets along with the aliens. You know? A whole new era. Yeah. Well,
Christie said if there was a discussion, he'd be transparent about it.
and we know he wouldn't lie. Politicians don't lie. You know that.
Right.
Okay, that's a new day.
And that would be a new subject and headline to talk about.
That's
Uh-huh.
Politician passes polygraph.
And his first cousin and his brother-in-law was giving the test. Well, is that all we have for tonight? Or do you have something else you want to talk about?
I
No,
think
I'm-
that's it for me.
I'm pretty good. I think we covered a little bit of territory. We got off of politics at least to talk about Nessie and, and a couple of things.
Yeah. There are some people that get off on tangents.
You know what? I'm really irritated with my cataract surgery. My eyes are itching like I got chemicals in them.
I had cataract surgery a few months ago, and I'm very pleased with the results.
Yeah, I'm going on about 3 years now. And just once in a while, like today, we went out in the country and all the goldenrod and, all the allergies and stuff. So once in a great while, I'll get that irritation. And of course, I'm too stupid to keep my fingers out of my eyes. I'll get some flush. I'll get some eye flush when we're done here.
Yeah, there you go. Do I have that website right, Lamar? Review.org?
Yes, sir.
All
Yes,
right.
sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Well, since we've covered everything in the world that needs to be covered, then we'll call it a night, and I thank you all for being here.
Angel, good to see you.
Have a good
Lamar,
night.
nice to meet you.
Yes.
See you all next time on the next one.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. Thank you. Angel, I'd like to catch up with you. Maybe you would like to be.
Sure. Let me see if I can give you that. I'll shoot you my email if I think.
No, I'm very
Steve-
serious. I'm very serious. One of the things that we're doing is we're bringing in professionals from other businesses, because like we have a medical doctor, which is teaching, people how to be in the medical field. So,
Okay.
you're into technology. I'm sure there's other people who would like to know about that field. So definitely would like to
Sure.
talk to you about being one of our teachers.
Sure. I would love that. Thank
So
you.
please, reach out to me, tutorsforyou.org.
I
If
sure
you got a pen and
will.
paper, I'll give you our phone number.
Okay.
And Lamar, I would be interested in having you as a
Yes, sir.
guest on my podcast. explain what you do
Yes,
and
sir.
share
Thank
with
you.
what you do.
There you go.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. I'll contact you through the
Yes,
link.
I can be reached at 813.
Hang on.
Okay. Well, I'll just talk to everybody. So
Just-
everybody,
just-
it's 813
Mhm.
743 3273. Again, it's 813 743 3273.
I got it.
Operator is ready.
All right.
You get 3 for the price of 1 if you call us. All right, good deal. We'll call this the network.
Operator standing by.
Yes.
All right. Well, everybody
We
have
are
a
a
good.
nonprofit, so we do accept donations.
All right.
Well, I hope y'all have a great week.
But thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night. Stay out of trouble.
Good night.
Stay out.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.